Hey guys, welcome back to the N&K Pod. We got a very special guest here today, all the way from Indiana. His name is Brian Evans, and he's going to be talking about his veteran nonprofit organization called INVETS. I think this is one of the most important things that we can do on the N&K Pod and putting it all over, the best we can all over the internet.
Yeah, definitely. Hey, and Brian, I just wanted to say thank you so much for coming on today and spending your time with us. I've heard a lot about you from Kevin. I've done a little research too on what the organization is about. However, this is going to be a very informative episode for me and learning more from you about what INVETS is all about and learning more about you as well. So I'm super stoked about this.
Yeah, gentlemen, thank you so much. Definitely excited to be on the pod. Kevin, great to see you again, brother. It's been a while.
It's been too long, man.
Yeah. Nick, awesome to meet you.
Yes,
definitely
sir.
Excited to talk to you today.
Yes, sir. Always a good time talking to Marines.
So. Yeah. We always bring in a different perspective that not a lot of people talk about. And every Marine comes in with a completely different story behind what they did, because everyone thinks the Marines and stuff or the Army, they just kind of go into, like, everyone does the same thing.
Yeah.
And it's drastically different, as we're about to hear what Brian did that no one got to do.
Yeah. So Brian, I know, like I said, Kevin's told me, a little about some of y'all's experiences, but, aside from INVETS, can you kind of just tell me a little bit about yourself, your military experience, maybe some stuff you did in there kind of leading up to where you are now?
Yeah. So I was born and raised in a small town in Indiana. And before I joined the Marine Corps, I was actually a ranch hand on a horse ranch. So it was,
cool.
Wow. Got some good outdoor time, got to experience what it's like to breed and work with horses. And then 2013, I joined the Marine Corps. Funny story, I didn't know what I wanted to do in the Marine Corps. And I kind of I landed infantry as my job because I did not do great on my ASVAB. And so it's funny because I didn't know how much the ASVAB actually affected. And my recruiter was like, hey man, when he looked at my results and he was like, hey, you didn't do great, but you could still join. I was like, cool. And I was like, what can I do? And he's like, well, you like camping?
You can pack sandbags if you want.
You're going to Iraq.
He's like, you like camping? I was like, I love camping. He's like, you love hunting? I was like, oh, I love hunting. He's like, you're going to love it.
Do you like hiking? I could try it.
Sign me up. This is the best thing ever. But that wasn't my experience at all, because I got really lucky. I got stationed after boot camp, infantry school in California. I got sent to DC. A very small group of us out of the entire platoon got sent to DC. It was like a class of 100, and 10 of us got selected. And we didn't know what we were getting into. I had no idea what I was about to do. I didn't know there was even a base in DC, but Marine Barracks 8th and I established in, was it
1801?
1801. So
really,
it was.
I really only remember that because of a salute. There was like this weird thing.
Well, everyone would whisper too. It was 1801, and then like
salute back as they whisper. Like staff NCOs would whisper to each other, 1801, as they pass, and it's like so freaking weird. But
really, but yeah, the area was scouted out by Thomas Jefferson, and it was a strategic place to put the Marines because it was right next to the Navy Yard, which was a major port that they wanted protected, but they also wanted them to be within marching distance to protect the capital. So, you'll see military bases all over the country, which are these massive, massive bases that are basically small towns and cities that are gated. But the barracks is this open barracks that has, a couple guards standing at the doors, but it's not really a gated facility. So you're just integrated right there in the middle of the city. So it's a really unique place. It's the first training grounds of the Marine Corps. A lot of history, beautiful place, and it's a unique duty assignment because you do a lot of different things. One of the things that we did was the firing party. So that 21 gun salute that you see in Arlington Cemetery, I had the opportunity of being a part of that and then leading that team. Conducted over 300 ceremonies at Arlington. And then the other special thing that we did was the dignified transfers at Dover Air Base. So Marines who are fallen in active training or in combat, and their bodies are transported back to the States. They all go to Dover Air Base, and a aluminum casket with a flag draped over it. You've probably seen the images of like the plane with all the caskets in it. So our job was to give them that proper respect of carrying them off the plane, loading them into the truck there for Dover in front of the families so the families could see them one last time. And then they would be sent to the Dover, I forget what the proper name is, but the mortuary where they would prep the bodies and send them home if they're going to do services back at their hometowns or in Arlington.
That's freaking
So
awesome.
it was a very unique experience in the Marine Corps.
When I've been to DC once, and while I was there, I did go to Arlington Cemetery, and it was for a Memorial Day weekend. So of course it was a pretty cool weekend being in DC.
Yeah.
But I was surprised. I went up there like, oh, I'm from Texas, when we were going up there, like, oh, it's going to be hot. Make sure you drink a lot of water. I was like, oh yeah, whatever. I'm from Texas. No big deal. I was surprised at how hot it was at Arlington Cemetery that day. And I felt so bad for the guards that were standing duty, at the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier. I was about to pass out just wearing shorts and a t-shirt. And I can imagine I mean, how's that work for y'all? I mean, you say you did over 300, ceremonies. I mean,
just don't pass out.
You just don't pass out.
If you have any respect in your body, you won't pass out.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, it was even the weather, because even the winter times, I mean, it could get in the negatives, super cold. But Kevin will tell you, we had a phenomenal platoon sergeant, and no matter how cold it was, and everyone's, I think the one funeral was like -12. Guys' nose were bleeding and their ears were bleeding because it was so cold, and everyone's kind of going internal. And we had
talking about the Sergeant Major of the Marine Corps changeover at EWO.
Yeah, well, remember Sergeant Pat and his glorious wisdom, but he didn't show that he was cold, and while everyone else was going internal before the ceremony started, he would just turn around and be like, well, do you think the Marines in Korea were cold?
Oh, yeah.
And so everyone was like, oh, well, okay.
Wow. I guarantee you they were complaining as well.
Like, let's be honest, and even the military in the Revolutionary War, everyone was complaining about their conditions.
Yeah, I have definitely a lot of respect though, especially after seeing that for the guys that do those ceremonies. So that's really neat.
We would have to hand wash the insides of our dress blue stuff, because we would sweat in it so much it would start to salt stain.
Wow.
And the brims of your hats that are normally white would start to turn a little bit yellow. So we had to get Clorox pins, little things like that. We had to put tape it to your head because
it sweat right off.
If it's wet, it would slide right off because of sweat. Sometimes you're sweating so much that the tape doesn't do anything for you. It'll just rock around and slide around, and if it falls off, it falls off. But you just got to keep going.
Yeah, it's for firing party, because usually, because there's different levels of funerals, between having just the basics with like the firing party and the body bearers where they fold the flag, to a full general grade funeral where they have either a platoon, a company, or the entire battalion. So there's different levels depending on who that individual was. But for firing party, you're out there more than anybody else with the body bearers, because it doesn't matter how low level that individual was, you're always going to have a firing party there to render that 21 gun salute. So you'd be out there, all day long, just doing funeral after funeral after funeral.
Tell us a little bit about your White House detail after you're done. So you got out of the Marine Corps and you just picked up a job at the White House. Did you ask if they were hiring, or what's the deal there?
I got ungodly lucky, just between, just having a good reputation between the Dover and the firing party. Our battalion commander at the time asked me what I was doing when I was getting out, because he knew I was getting out. We had briefly talked about the possibility of a VSEP package of being able to become an officer, where you get to basically get paid to go to school and then go to officer candidate school and do training. Mm-hmm. But my wife is from Germany, so having a foreign wife and doing all this training and then deployments, I didn't want to leave her in a country where she has no family by herself for long periods of time. So we both agreed that getting out was the best idea. Just didn't know what we wanted to do. And we both agreed that we wanted to stay in DC because we really liked DC. So I was just trying to figure out what we were going to do. Capitol Police was my first choice, my kind of go-to, because they were always hiring, and the starting salary just for their training was like $50,000 a year, which was at the time for any young lance corporal, or sergeant, you're like, oh yeah, 50 grand, like sign me up.
Let's go.
Yeah. So I had made a side comment when he asked me what I was going to do, and I was like, well, I want to work for the, if I could work for the federal government or try something new, I'd definitely appreciate it. And I'd be open to it. And I just kind of made a joke. I'm like, I'd like to work at the White House. And he was like, okay. And then I found out that night he had dinner with the gentleman who runs the White House military office. They're good friends. And he was a former Marine officer. And he was telling him about me. He was like, oh, I got this young corporal here, telling him all the stuff that I did. And he was interested in me. So the battalion commander came back that Monday and said, hey, send him your, he gave me his email and said, hey, send him your resume. So I sent in a resume, had the other officers in the office help me build a resume because I've never built one before. Mm-hmm. And we pulled one together within a couple hours, sent it over my resume, and they scheduled an interview. And then I remember getting the call for the interview, didn't think it was real. And then I remember walking into the White House. So you go up to the gate, Secret Service checking you in. I'm like, there's nobody there to let me in. This is not real. And then next thing I'm walking up to the White House, and I enter the diplomatic reception room, which is this glorious room. There's a front desk with the Secret Service in there, old paintings on the wall. You see a lot of former first ladies paintings everywhere. Furniture is that classical colonial era furniture. And I remember just sitting there, and they're like, "Oh yeah, your escort will be down in a minute." And I remember just sitting in there, and I didn't sit all the way back in the chair. I just sat on the edge of the chair, trying not to wrinkle my suit. And I remember just looking around. I'm like, I do not belong here.
I do not belong
I was like,
here.
Who am I fooling? And then they took me up to the east wing of the White House at the top floor. I entered his office, and we had about a 3-hour interview. And
wow.
The beginning of it was kind of a little bit about him just grilling me, like, who do you think you are, kind of deal. It's like, people who work here, have X amount of years in the federal government, they specialize in this policy. Like, what makes you think that you're going to be able to contribute, essentially? And then he grilled me about not going to become an officer, or why I wouldn't want to be an officer and stay in the Marine Corps. And then it quickly turned into him just getting to know me. And I guess I made a good impression, because then he sent a recommendation to some other department heads, and then the person that was in charge of presidential correspondence, she called me up and got my resume and recommendation and asked for an interview. And her interview was a lot better, super friendly. She was just getting to know me and then trying to figure out. Her father actually flew Marine One back in the day. So she was pretty well aware of the Marine Corps, just kind of the training you get with the Marine Corps. She was looking for somebody who could manage a large operation and be able to kind of move people to get a collective objective finished. So that's what she was looking for, and I had that experience with the Marine Corps, especially the barracks, just that small unit leadership and just being able to pull people together to accomplish something. So it worked out, and it was I remember when she offered me the job, where she's like, "Oh, what do you want?" She's like, "Yeah, we want to hire you. Do you want to talk it over with your wife?" I'm like, "Nope, she's gonna say yes. Let's go start the paperwork now." And I remember walking out of there just in disbelief. That's like a small town kid from Indiana. I was not a great student. I was shoveling poop out of horse stalls, and then joined the Marine Corps in the infantry with a low ASVAB score. And next thing you know, I'm about to manage an office at the White House. So it was pretty cool. It was life-changing.
Yeah, that's super cool. What year was it that you started there?
2017.
2017. Okay, so that's right when the new administration took over. Okay.
Yep.
I bet that was a very interesting time in there then, at the start of the brand new administration.
I'll be honest. It's not as crazy as people think. It's not as different. I mean, we work side by side with you when you're a political appointee versus a career. You work side by side with people that have been there forever. Like, one lady in our office has been there since Ford was in office, and so she's seen every administration. She's seen every. There's nothing that she couldn't tell you. And one thing she shared with me is like, they're all the same. I mean, in the inside of it, it's all the same. So, you know, they always hire young people because the hours are long, the pay is terrible. Surprisingly, you don't get paid a lot when you work at the White House unless you're like the top department head. So you get a lot of young professionals working there, and it's like that with every administration.
Wow,
that's cool.
Yeah.
And then so you leave the White House to decide to take on, I don't know, I would say bigger and better things, but
well, yeah, I mean,
that. It was like a
statewide initiatives, I would say. So
yeah. What made you decide to go back home to Indiana, and tell us a lot what you're doing now?
So last year, actually, my wife and I, you know, we found out that we were expecting our first child, and we realized that raising kids in DC is probably not the best. It's so expensive, and you know, we kind of wanted just a more relaxed environment to raise a family.
Yeah.
As much as we love DC, I mean, we can't wait to go back. But we decided to pick up and leave in 2019. And I will say that's kind of when my transition happened, because, you know, going from the Marine Corps to the White House, I had a 1-day break. So there was really no transition. And I was so focused that, you know, I didn't even think of the fact that I was out of the military. Right. But then moving to Indiana, I almost went 3 months without being able to find a job, and I was applying to places left and right, but I had no network established. And I was naive thinking that, I could find a job in no time with the Marine Corps and the White House on my resume. There's no way no one's going to hire me. And I just got rejection after rejection after rejection.
And that's completely natural to think that, though. I mean,
oh yeah, I mean, well, now that I've looked at it,
you have an astounding military resume, and then you get out. It's like, all I need to do is like just get the certifications checked off, and I could pretty much work anywhere. And a lot of people think that.
Yeah.
And now you can't even get, not you, I'm just saying, it's hard getting a Walmart greeter. It's like, it's crazy.
Which, before I worked for the horse ranch, I actually applied to Walmart, and I got rejected.
Really?
Yeah.
They probably thought you were overqualified. It's probably why.
Well, I was fresh out of high school. Like there was nothing.
Okay.
Not after.
Oh, I misunderstood you.
Before I worked for the horse ranch, before the Marine Corps, I applied to Walmart.
Okay. I thought you said after you left DC. I was like, are you serious? So that's crazy.
Well, I will say there was like, you know, those kind of like those jobs where it's insurance company, you're selling insurance, basically an insurance salesperson. I had a couple of those that never called me back, which that was like my last resort. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, actually, funny story. I've actually sold insurance before. I was actually wanting to go in the Marine Corps, and my dad, he served in the Marine Corps. He really wanted me to go a different path than he did, and really like pushed really hard for it. So one of the things he wanted me to do, he really pushed me to, because he has his insurance license, and so I did that for a little bit. It was cool, you know, but you know, it wasn't for me. So now I moved into, of course, the career I'm in and everything, and it's been great. But yeah, it's a unique field.
Yeah, yes, It is. Yeah. So, but yeah, I mean, I got really lucky though, because it was actually the executive director of INVETS, a friend of a friend, said, hey, you know, you need to contact this guy. He's, you know, former Army sniper. He started this organization for helping veterans find jobs. Like, you need to contact him. And so I called him up, and within a couple of weeks, he had me, you know, in front of a person looking for someone to fill a role at a nonprofit called Connexus Indiana, where they focus on economic development, workforce development for Indiana's manufacturing industry, which makes up 1/3 of Indiana's economy. So it's really important that, you know, those companies stay here and they're happy. But yeah, so within a couple of weeks, he was able to help me.
Nice. Well, let's talk about, what do y'all do at INVETS?
Yeah, so we are a nonprofit organization that partners with the state and private industry. Mm-hmm. Our main focus, so I have our veteran engagement team, and their main focus is to travel to military bases all around the country, talk face-to-face with transitioning military or service members, and kind of first explain kind of what Indiana has to offer with like state benefits for veterans, which are separate from federal VA. We have our Indiana Department of Veteran Affairs that we work closely with to help navigate those benefits. And then they also talk about just kind of the landscape of Indiana, why it's a great place to raise a family. If you have a young family, the cost of living super low, taxes are super low. If you want to live in the southern part of the state, be surrounded by beautiful rolling hills and woods, you can do so. If you want to move to the northern part, be close to Chicago. We sit right there on Lake Michigan. We have the beautiful Indiana dunes. And then you have central Indiana, which, full of museums. We have the Indy 500, basketball, football, we have great sports teams. So there's a lot to do in Indy. And so
Nice.
they kind of share that information because, and I've learned with the military is that when you tell people you're from Indiana, they're like, oh, you're a flyover state. Like what's in Indiana other than cornfields? Well, there's a lot in Indiana. So we kind of help and give them that information and just how our state is great for veterans in general, especially for retired veterans, because we just passed a bill where they don't tax your retirement.
Nice. So y'all do the networking for veterans.
Right. So then that's the veteran engagement team where, they help that transition and help the transition veteran, but they also help veterans who are already in the state who may have been out for 10 years and just want to switch careers. And then there's my side of the house with the employers, where we go to employers all over the state, explain to them what are the benefits of hiring veterans, and then kind of help them get on our site. We give them a space for basically an entire web page dedicated to their company, so we allow them to highlight their company in the best possible light and post all of their jobs. And so every veteran who signs up with us, it's free to sign up. For companies, it's free to sign up. You just fill out your basic information as a veteran. Once you create that profile, you have access to all the companies within our network and all the jobs that they've posted.
Yeah, that's really important, because I think we get a lot of false through pop culture. We kind of develop a false stereotype with veterans, and how there's a lot of employers who don't hire vets sometimes because they think we're crazy or something like that, which I mean to an extent.
Well, there's two issues. There's two issues with that too. Like you said, the kind of misrepresentation that Hollywood has given what it's like to be a transitioning veteran, especially one who's seen combat. You're seen as aggressive or unstable. And I had a hiring manager actually share a story with me about the person that she replaced, who was a hiring manager who didn't hire a veteran, because he shared a story when they asked him, like, how do you deal with stress in the workplace? And then he shared a story because he just came back from Afghanistan and was transitioning. And he shared a story about him losing a friend and just kind of the stressful environment that they had to work under. And he started to get teary-eyed. And they didn't want to hire him because they were afraid that he would snap in the middle of the workplace. So obviously that person is not in that position anymore. They were replaced. Good. But yeah, there's just bad representation. And then the other side of the house is, even if you're a transitioning veteran stationed in Texas, you're an Army base in Texas and you want to move to Indiana, but you go to apply for jobs, but they see that your location's in Texas, they don't want to hire you because you're not in Indiana. So they're worried that you're going to try to negotiate for them to move you and pay for the move and stuff like that. So, they just want people that are already living there who can start right away. So our job is to help, bridge that gap, create that network for you, and help you with that transition and help you come to the state.
That's awesome.
Super awesome. And then I'm super glad to see that there are programs like this. They're very much needed. A friend of mine, he was in the Marine Corps and everything, and back in the mid to 2005 2009 10ish area, and he was deployed to Afghanistan, loved every minute of it, he loved the Marine Corps life, PT super early in the morning, getting thrashed, loved the sandpit stuff at MCRD, and just loved that set schedule. And
right,
he got out for family reasons, and had a son coming and everything, and decided to take a step back. And it took him a few years to finally find his niche and what he really wanted to do in the civilian life, because he was really feeling out of place for a little while and was missing that camaraderie and that set schedule and that routine. And finally, just now in the past couple of years, he's finally gotten into a point where he's kind of found himself. He's got himself into a good career that he likes. His family's starting to flourish, and it's great to see. But unfortunately, not everybody gets to that point, and it's very sad. And not everybody has a support system to, when they get out of the military, to get them through those rough stages of that transition process.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, we have services. The military has provided services to kind of help you transition, but that transition course is 5 days. So if you think about it, the military is not, it's not just a job. It's a complete different lifestyle. And the military in general is really great at preparing you for the military before you even join, then breaking you down and building you up to be, great for the military, and then training you for the job that you signed up to do, and then, constantly giving you, college courses, training after training after training every year that you're in. Every branch is different. Everyone has a different experience. Every job is different, but collectively, everyone can agree that, you get immersed into this culture and this lifestyle essentially, and then you're surrounded by this huge network and people that are, now extended family. I mean, there are people that you serve with that become closer than your actual family that you grew up with. And then all of a sudden you're ready to get out and you want to move on to the next thing, and you're like, oh, here's 5 days to re-enter the civilian world. Good luck. So there is a gap that needs to be addressed, and we're just trying to fill that gap.
That's really cool.
That
can help depression rates to decrease. That can help suicide rates to decrease. Maybe we can stop with the 22 a day and get it down to 10, like hopefully down to 0. I mean,
yeah, just to let people know, like, there's still other vets here for you that want to help you out. I mean, that's
well, and especially imagine, you're a part of this thing that's bigger than yourself, and you feel this sense of duty, and that even the meaningless things that you're doing is contributing to something bigger. And then you get out and you're trying to find a job, and you're like, well, what can I do to fulfill my time and to find meaning? But then, that's a whole challenge. But then finding the job in general is a challenge of just, what your resume looks like. What your message is your resume sending? How are your interviewing skills? Any person in the military that's ever gone on a meritorious promotion board, that's your form of interviewing, but you have to walk in there like a robot and only answer questions, once someone else has spoken to you first. And that's not how an interview is supposed to go in the civilian world. So, you have veterans going out into their first interview ever outside the military thinking like that's how you conduct yourself. And that hiring manager is probably looking at you like, well, here's this robotic person that has no personality. So, it's challenging because, even for people outside the military, for young college students who are about to find their first job, an interview is supposed to be a conversation, because they're not just trying to find someone that's, can fill that position and is qualified for that position, but they want to make sure that you will fit in with the culture of the organization. They want to know that your personality and who you are as a human being is going to fit everyone else around you. So having that two-way conversation, which is what an interview is, and asking questions and, telling them about yourself, that's part of it. So just sitting there like a robot waiting for someone to ask you a question can send the wrong message in an interview. So those are things that we try to help with, especially with resume writing. There's a lot of conflicting information. You see these powerful voices on LinkedIn in the veteran space, and you have some telling you how to, translate your military titles to civilian titles. But then you have another house of it saying, well, don't do that, because it's like, oh, you were this and that's what you are. You should highlight that. So there's a lot of conflicting information. So we actually do these webinars where we get our transitioning veterans who are interested in front of actual hiring managers with companies that we work with. And we let them explain to them what they want to see when they look for a candidate. So they get to hear it directly from the hiring manager.
Oh, great. Yeah. Wow.
Pretty much handle everything for them. Like, you give them all the resources they require. I honestly didn't know that to the extent of how much resources they did.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. There's resources everywhere for veterans.
Right.
The VA tries to keep up with giving you resources. There's people all in the veteran space trying to give resources, but the problem is there's so much resource out there, and you don't know what's good, what's bad, what's relevant to you. So we just try to consolidate all that resource. We work directly with our state partners to make sure that you only have to come to one spot to get the help you need. And if we can't do it, we'll point you in the right direction.
Sweet. Super neat on that. Super, super neat. I didn't know y'all went in that much detail on getting them in front of hiring managers and doing like training for that on what they should do. Wow.
Yeah,
It's
right.
helpful. And I wish I would have, well, I didn't need it because it's like, Kevin can tell you too with the TRS course, it is run by the Department of Labor and the DOD, and they do go over your kind of how to navigate your benefits with the VA, which again, they try to make it to where you just go online and you can manage it, but no one really does it. And you still have to find some sort of state representation or organizational representation to help you navigate your VA benefits, because it's such a massive bureaucracy and it's so hard to do. And some people are lucky and they can really figure it out, and other people are just too busy to figure it out, so they need someone else to help them with that process. And then the other thing, they kind of teach you interviewing skills and how to write a resume, but that's a 2-day section of it. I have the 5 days, 2 days, it's just interviewing and resume writing. But having someone show you an example of a resume and telling you a couple things versus you writing a resume, having someone look over it and then telling you what's wrong with it, then you rewrite it, and then you do that process 3 or 4 times of writing and rewriting your resume till it's perfect, and showing you how to tailor it to each job that you're applying for. That's a whole other process. And that takes more than just a day.
Mm-hmm.
And I already had secured my job with the White House when I went through that transitioning course. And I didn't find any of it relevant from my experience that I had just gone through with writing a resume and interviewing. So it was conflicting for me.
Mm.
Wow. Well, is there any information you want to give out to the viewers who are watching, like how to get in contact with INVETS if they ever need it?
Absolutely. Yeah. So, I mean, even if if you're wherever you are in the world right now, whether, if you're about to transition or you've transitioned a while ago, if you're even remotely interested in learning about Indiana and seeing what INVETS is all about, check us out on invets.org. That's invets.org. Check out our website, create a profile if you would like, especially if you want to see what kind of jobs we have available. And if you want to learn more about the state. And then you can also follow us on social media with Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn. One thing we do with LinkedIn is we always highlight one company we work with and a job they're posting every week, kind of like a hot job that we want to highlight and show what's out there between the health industry, if you want to get into medical practice, versus logistics or data science and things like that. Definitely follow us on social media.
Nice. Hey, man, thank you for coming on. Thank you for coming on the podcast. This was very informative. I think a lot of people are going to use this.
Yeah,
I appreciate the time.
Yeah. Like Kevin said, thank you again. That was super informative for me. I just learned a lot in what that does. And I'm excited to get this on all of our social media pages. It goes as far as, we're willing to push it. And I want to push this as far as we possibly can.
As we can. Yeah, we're going to push it as far as we can.
I appreciate it both. And yeah, everyone listening, follow the N&K Pod and share this video with everyone you know.
Thank you so much, man. Thank you for your time.
Absolutely. Thank you, gentlemen.
Have a good one, Brian.
Bye.
See you guys.